All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my latest camera, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. Let's get into it. So before we get into this video, I'm really trying to grow this YouTube channel, so it would mean a lot to me if you hit the like button and subscribe down below. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as you can probably guess from how I started this video, I recently picked up the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K camera. Now, I'm currently filming this video in 2021, and this camera is, I believe, 2.5 to 3 years old now. Not this one in particular, but it was released 2.5 to 3 years ago. And since then, they actually released 2 newer versions of the camera. One that actually dropped maybe within the last month or so. So the successors to this camera are the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K and the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro. Now, the reason I went with the Blackmagic 4K is because, first of all, it was probably around $1,000 cheaper than the 6K. And I don't really see myself using 6K footage for a lot of the projects that I do, but I also did want a cinema camera that was capable of shooting RAW in 4K, which the Blackmagic 6K is not able to do. The Blackmagic 6K only shoots RAW in 6K, and it shoots ProRes in 4K in any of the lower formats. So having the ability to shoot RAW in not only 1080, but 4K as well with this camera is the main reason that I bought it. So those are the technical reasons why I bought this camera. The logistical reasons or the creative reasons or the driving force to even put this camera on my radar was I'm trying to get into newer style of projects. I want to do more documentary kind of projects, and for some of the projects that I do, a camera like this for the price point that it's at is actually super helpful. I explained in the last video that I do a lot of brand videos. I also do weddings, I do interviews, I do car videos, and one of the main things that I keep running into, one of the main issues that I keep having to do is, especially when I'm filming a wedding or doing an interview or even a YouTube video like this, is I always run out of time when I'm filming. That's because I shoot on Sony cameras, and with those you only get a 30-minute recording limit. And if I have a main camera set up at a wedding, it would be nice to just kind of leave it there and trust that it's going to be recording as long as it has battery. Another reason I picked up this camera is because I really wanted to experiment with raw footage, and as a videographer who's been filming for maybe 4 or 5 years now, I never really messed with raw video before, but that's also because I didn't really have a computer, or I thought I didn't have a computer capable enough of handling raw footage. And it's something I learned about in film school many years ago, and I wanted something that was capable of shooting that. And again, for the price point, the Pocket Cinema 4K just seemed to be the right answer for my needs. Paired with this camera, I also picked up 2 lenses. At the time of purchase, I couldn't really afford anything too crazy, so I picked up the Rokinon 24mm cinema lens. A month later, I picked up an EF to micro 4/3 adapter, which is the Viltrox one, along with the Canon 24-105 f4 lens, because I wanted something that was going to be very versatile and allow me to use this camera in multiple situations. For me, anytime I purchase something new, it's an experience to learn. And when it comes to this camera, I really just wanted to learn how it worked. I wanted to learn it inside and out, because like I said, I already shoot on Sony and I have 2 Sony cameras. So getting another one didn't really seem like the right choice at the time. And recently the Sony a7S III dropped, and one of my friends was asking me, why wouldn't you just buy the Sony a7S III or get another camera that has those recording capabilities? And the main reason is just because, like I said, I wanted to learn how to use this camera. I wanted to start experimenting with raw footage, and I really just wanted to bring my knowledge up to the next level. And I'm sure there are a bunch of ways to do that, whether it be taking online classes or online tutorials or reading up on stuff like this. But for me, I'm somebody that's really hands-on. So the best way for me to learn is to pick up the camera, stick it in my hand, learn how everything works in and out, play with all the buttons, shoot projects, and pretty much learn from my mistakes. And not only am I learning how to work the camera, I'm learning how to work with raw footage, and I'm also going to be learning a new program, which is DaVinci Resolve. I downloaded the free version of it before I picked up this camera, but the camera actually did come with an included software. And like I said, the whole purpose of this camera was to up my game and see what I can do with new tools and just expand my knowledge beyond using the tools that I already have to create content and do videos and stuff like that. I already had my first opportunity of using this camera in I guess a professional setting. So far, I've only done 2 projects with this camera. The first one will be listed down below if you guys haven't seen it already, which is my video talking about the behind the scenes of shooting the Lamborghini. The entire talking piece of that video was shot with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, very similar to how this setup is. I use that as my main camera, and I had the audio set up with the lavalier mic. In the audio settings in the Blackmagic camera, I can set the default on the left and right channel to either come through the microphones that are on the camera, through the auxiliary cable, or through the XLR input that comes on the side of the camera. And when I was filming that video, I only wanted the audio to come in from the lavalier microphone. So I made the settings that. And the thing with cinema cameras is once you set something, that's pretty much it. And it's not going to be default. It's not like my Sony camera where if I put a shotgun microphone or I hook the lavalier microphone up to and I disconnect it, it's still going to record audio. And I didn't realize that. So when I actually shot my following project, which was a quick little video for my friend's fitness brand, I didn't realize that the audio wasn't recording straight to the camera. So I don't have any audio, or I didn't have any audio in that actual project. So I kind of had to make up the sound design as I went along. And that's one of the first mistakes I made using this camera, but best believe I know next time, every time I pick up this camera, to make sure that the audio was working. And despite the pain in the ass it was to sync the audio up or make sound effects for what was going on in the video, I'm actually happy that I made that mistake because it's something I learned from, and the whole purpose of getting this camera was to make mistakes with it, learn how to use it, and just make it another tool in my arsenal that I know like the back of my hand. My Sony a7 III and my Sony a6300, I know both of them like the back of my hand. I know where all the settings are. I set up all the custom functions on those cameras to work how I want them to work. So I'm happy I made that mistake, and I'm happy that I'm learning with this camera, and I'm really looking forward to making it something that I use as often as possible or for the right scenarios. This is actually the most basic that the camera is right now. So I already had a bunch of small rig accessories and other things to put on this camera. But currently right now, the camera is in a small rig cage. I have my Viltrox adapter on here just because I figured it's much easier to just put a Canon lens cap on here as opposed to or sensor cap I should say, as opposed to constantly having to take the Viltrox off and replace it and do all these things. So I leave the Viltrox filter on here, and I just put a sensor cap for Canon to protect the sensor and the speed booster in here. I have the small rig cage on it. I am currently powering the camera with an external power supply. So this is a small rig adapter that allows me to use my Sony, I think it's the NPF70 batteries. And I have like 8 of these batteries for all of my LEDs. It powers all of those, as well as my external monitors. So being able to use those batteries to power this camera is actually very useful, and it was definitely worth purchasing this because I have a bunch of them and I have a bunch of chargers for them. And when I do eventually buy more, it won't just be to use it with this camera, but to also use it for all of the LEDs and all the other stuff I own as well. I played around with a few different configurations to this camera, and I already had a small rig cage for my Sony a7 III and Sony a6300. So for the past 4 years, I've just kind of been accumulating different small rig pieces to rig out my cameras for different scenarios. I already have an external monitor, and I have a couple different shotgun mics, as well as wireless lavaliers for recording audio. And rigged out, this camera actually looks pretty cool, but it does get very heavy very fast. And I did notice that when I was shooting the promo for my friend's brand, that it was a little bit of a pain in the ass traveling with it because I had it in my book bag and then I had it dismantled, and to use it I had to set everything up and bolt everything in. I had to bring Allen keys with me. So it wasn't exactly run and gun, but it still was a pretty cool project. And I think for right now, when I'm not really doing anything too serious and I can get away with not having to do like such low angles, I will just be using the camera like this with the lens and a battery mounted on top. Not anything too crazy rigged out. When I had it rigged out for that specific project, I had my top handle on it, as well as my SSD to record everything to that because CFast cards are just too expensive. And I had my external monitor on it, and it was just very bulky and kind of a pain in the ass. But for much bigger projects or documentaries or longer interviews or weddings and stuff like that, I probably will have the camera rigged out. Currently, the base plate on here is the one from my Ronin S because I wanted to see if I could get it to bounce on the gimbal, which successfully I actually managed to do for the first time today. But I feel like if I'm going to be using the gimbal, I'll probably end up using it with one of my Sony cameras just because of the autofocus on them. This camera doesn't come with autofocus, so it would kind of be a pain for me right now trying to figure out how to focus while using this camera without having to purchase a follow focus or something like that. And also, if I have the battery plate mounted on top, I can't really get those really low angles by inverting the gimbal. So I think for right now, all the gimbal work is gonna stick with the A7 III unless I feel like taking a couple shots with it. But as of right now, this is mainly gonna be like a tripod, monopod, set it, forget it, or handheld camera. I think I'm gonna steer clear of using this with the gimbal for a little while. I don't know if I'll be using this for something like a car video. There's another YouTube channel called Driven Films where I've actually watched a few reviews on them using their Blackmagic cinema camera for specifically car videos. It's a great channel, highly recommend checking it out. But I don't know if that's gonna be the right application for me. I do definitely wanna be using it for weddings, and I am looking to get into more serious filmmaking, not just videography. So I'm really hoping that this becomes one of the tools that I use when the big projects come out. I have no idea yet if this camera is going to fully suit my needs. I'm planning to do an update video sometime in the future, maybe after a few months of having used this camera on multiple projects. But for right now, I'm really just experimenting with it, and I'm really looking forward to adding this to my arsenal and using it on multiple projects. And for all the other projects, you know, my Sony A7 III just kills it. I bought that camera brand new, and it's been a workhorse for the past like 2 or 3 years now. No. Yeah. I want to say 2 years. Yeah, I've had the camera for 2 years, and it's just been an absolute workhorse. So I'm really looking forward to putting this camera through its paces, and I'm looking forward to getting more projects done with it and just experimenting and see how it goes. So that's gonna be it for today's video. If you wanna check out the video I did for my friend's fitness brand, I'll have it listed below. Check it out, leave some feedback on it, let me know what you guys think. It's the first project that I shot for somebody else with this camera. And like I said, it was really just kind of a learning experience. I do plan on doing more in-depth looks at some of the footage that I shot with this. When I first got the camera, I took it out for a little test run. So maybe I'll do another video just showing some of the test footage that I took. But check out that project. Let me know what you guys thought about this video in the comments below. And let me know, do you think it's worth buying the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K in 2021? Keep in mind, it's been 3 years since its release. They recently dropped the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro, and they also have the newer version, which is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K, the newer version to the 4K, which is like the middle version. Anyways, that's gonna be it for today's video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, do all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, I had no idea this was here. I don't even know what this button does. I just discovered this little dial here, which is funny because my Sony camera, I shoot on the A7 III, also has it, but I didn't realize what it was for. So let's see what it's set to. It's not changing anything. I wonder. Hold on, let me grab my Canon lens here. What is this doing now? That'll probably help. Oh, this is set to my ISO. Nice. Anyways.